All right, everybody. Ben here. I've got a couple of parts for this YFZ-450R. If you followed my channel a few months ago during the Summer of Destruction, we had lots of stuff broken, but this YFZ had a kind of a minor rollover. My daughter flipped it. She's okay, but it bent the steering stem, and I think it kind of tweaked the handlebars. So I replaced the bars because that was easy, and the steering stem has not quite been right since. And just the controls in general just feel really funny on this thing. So we broke a clutch cable. This is the factory cables for one reason or another. None of this stuff is quite right. Like the brake line's kinked a little bit. The length isn't quite right, and the handlebars aren't even the right bend. Those are dirt bike handlebars. So it feels really low. It's uncomfortable to me. My son likes it, but it's not right. So anyways, took a while for Alba to get their steering stem back in stock. And I like Albas because they're like half the price, and we're kind of recreational riders. We're not racing or anything like that. I was considering a couple of other brands as well, but ended up getting Albas. It includes their anti-vibe clamp. And I went ahead and got some ATV high bend bars as well. So this is the same setup that's on both of these Raptors here. Of course, this is a 7/8 handlebar because that's really the play on that thing. And but here on the big Raptor, it's got the same thing, Alba stem clamp and ATV high bend bar, fat bars from Tusk. Tusk is also kind of a budget brand from Rocky Mountain, but I'm happy with their products. And again, if I were a professional racer, it'd be a different story, but it's not. So here we go. I'm just going to set up disassembly real quick, and shouldn't be too big of a deal here, but famous last words. As long as I don't break a bolt, should be able to get this done in a few hours. Well, here it is. You can tell by looking at it, it has a little tweak. It's not real bad, but see if I can get to. It's got a nice bend in it. It's not kinked or anything like that, but it's definitely bent. I'm trying to get an angle here where you can see it on the camera. You can kind of see it there. So it just makes it kind of uncomfortable, and it pulled the cables in a funny way, and that's, of course, what led to the breaking of a clutch cable and stuff. So anyways, got this thing out. It's gonna go on the shelf, or maybe the garbage. It's probably where it should go. And then let me show you what else we got going on. I left all the controls. I left all the controls on the handlebars because, like I said, my son does not mind the handlebars being kind of low. So I'm gonna leave these bars on, at least to try it at first, with just the stem. The stem is a +1, so it will rise them a little bit and change the position a little bit. So we'll see how that feels before we change the bars. That's of course pretty easy to do after the fact. So the hardest part of this is breaking loose that big nut that's on the bottom. As you see, I just use an impact. That is a 22 millimeter. Yeah, that's a 22 millimeter lock nut. And so I didn't take off the tie rods or anything. As you can see, I have that still just sitting there. So that's probably going to be difficult to line back up and get all that back in the wet spot whenever I slide the new steering stem back in there. The bearings are fine. None of that stuff is hard. This is a relatively new bike and with low hours, so I don't have to pull out all that stuff. I've just got to line up these things like so. Anyways, to get the new stem back in there, and I'll get all that stuff lined up and slide this new stem in. There is a clamp that you had to access, so that you have to remove the fuel tank to do that. But these bikes are really simple to work on. These quads are really simple to work on. The YFZ-450, you can take all the body work off with no tools at all. It all just uses these, the little hand clips. So pretty easy to work on. This took me less than 20 minutes with no specialty tools at all. That big impact was the only thing I really needed. And I think you could break it loose if you had even a breaker bar or something like that. So nothing real fancy. All right, I'm gonna put the new stem back in. All right, so what I've done is I have a shallow socket. I use a deep socket to get it off, but I have a shallow socket with an extension, and I can put the nut inside, and it's just barely recessed. And I'm going to set the washer on top and very carefully okay, so I got it started from the bottom that way, and now I'm going to use my impact on a low setting. So I've got that bottom nut on. It is not torqued to spec. I will do that later. I'm going to get the rest of these. I'm going to get this these little rubber bearings, gaskets in there, and put this upper clamp on. I'll clean some of this up a little bit first. I'd like to point out that I am not a professional. There's probably better ways to do this. I do have a book, a service manual for this quad. I strongly believe in using the service manuals for all the information that you need. I don't have the book here, so I'll come back to the torque stuff here in a little bit, but I probably should have got new rubber gaskets or bearings, and you know what, I need to lube these up. What a disaster. while tightening, I'm keeping an eye on these rubber seals in there, making sure they're not getting kinked or anything like that. The bottom one you kind of lose sight of, but making sure it's all folding up correctly. Okay, I'll torque those in a little bit. I'd also like to point out that I'd arranged this in the forward position. This steering stem is a +1 length, so it's taller, and +1 forward if you arrange it that way. So you can see the center line of these, so you can rotate the whole stem, and these bolts would be further back instead of further forward. So that it's just a rider comfort. It's an ergonomics thing. The factory steering stem has that similar feature. It works a little bit differently, but see, you can put these clamps in different bolt holes so that your handlebars are, you know, forward more or not from the center line of the steering stem. You've noticed, if you've noticed all of my quads, I have that way. I have the steering stem arranged forward. So anyways, you get the point. All right, so next is the clamp. This is an anti-vibe clamp. It's different than the factory style with these holes. This is a pretty popular design for aftermarket steering stems on quads. So Alba offers their stem in a couple of different finishes. This is powder coated black. And then they offer the clamp in a couple of different finishes. This is just raw or polished. I don't know if I'd call it polished. It's just a raw aluminum. I think it's probably anodized clear. I don't know that for sure though. Be careful, there's a lot of little washers and rings and stuff on these to lose. Just eyeballing the clamp, it does not appear that it has a forward or backwards mechanism. Pretty sure the arrangement doesn't matter. It's just a matter of getting the clamp in. That's a 19mm nylon lock nut. I don't want to squish that down too much. Once I get the bars on it and I can sit on the quad, I'll get it so that it feels comfortable. You can tighten or loosen these big bolts to give your handlebars a more, I guess, a tighter or a more I don't know, jiggly feel, for lack of a better phrase. They, you know, since this is rubber bushings, the handlebars have an anti-vibration, you know, barrier here, so that's nice. But if you have it a little too loose, your handlebars feel sloppy, in my opinion. So you got to get that just right. But it's easy to adjust. Just tighten those nuts. I've done that on all my other quads as well. I'm gonna go ahead and lay the bars in there. I'm going to try the old handlebars first, like I said earlier. All right, it's just finger tight. Obviously, I have to do a lot of work with the cabling and stuff, so that's probably what I'll do next, is pull out these old cables. This is the broken factory clutch cable. This is the factory throttle cable. It is obviously not long enough, so I might just have those routed wrong. I really don't know. So I will attempt to get those right with these new Motion Pro aftermarket cables that are a little bit longer. I think they're 2 inches longer. So I'm gonna get started on that now. My goodness, that was a pain in the ass. So getting the clutch cable out is not that big of a deal. Getting the throttle cable out was a huge problem. These things are pretty tight to work on, especially when you're dealing with anything to do with the throttle body, because it's all crammed up in there. So as you can see, I had to take off the exhaust system and then get to this little door, this little access panel right here that has 3 small Allen heads. They're 3mm Allen bolts that You got to get in there and get it out, and then you got to cycle the spring and get that little throttle cable to release. The end of it is tiny. Oh, well, here's the broken clutch cable. That just pulled out. But the end of the throttle cable is tiny. It's this little bitty thing like that that goes into this little brass part inside the throttle body. So anyways, got through that. So got them out. Now I'm going to deal with these wires. That's a loose harness down in there. So I think these I can pull some slack out of to get them to raise up a little more. I'm not real sure about those brake lines with the brake line either. I did order some longer brake lines. I would like some nice stainless steel brake lines for the front here. I don't have them in my hands yet, so I'm probably not gonna be able to finish this until I get those, because that looks like it's gonna be too tight right there. So anyways, I'm gonna try to get some slack out of these wires, and then I will route the new clutch and throttle cables down, and I will at least get those sealed up here before, I don't like leaving those types of things open overnight. It's getting pretty late, so I'm gonna put it back together. At least get that throttle cable in, I think. All right, the steering stem clamp bolts are torqued to 23 Newton meters. And the big nut on the bottom of the steering stem is torqued to 180 Newton meters. That's a lot. And don't forget a fresh cutter pin. Okay, got the fenders and things back on, all the plastics together. Looks good, feels good. I kind of sat on it and did some adjustments to get the the height and things right. Make sure the controls are where they feel correct. The new throttle cable and new clutch cable are nice. They're perfect, good length. Motion Pro makes a great OEM quality product. The factory electronic wire, the here and here are, they're a little snug, but there's some slack in the harness down below, so I was able to kind of pull those up. And then the factory brake line is fine turning left, but when turning right, if you go all the way to lock, it's pretty tight. So I have aftermarket stainless steel braided brake lines on the way. I just don't have them yet, but I was able to complete this as you see it here. So looks good. I really love the fit and finish of Alba's clamp. I think it's cool. And like I say at the beginning of this is still the handlebars that were on this bike or quad. It was a their CR high bend, which is I guess a popular bend for dirt bikes. I guess that's a Honda bend or something. And then so that's it. No big deal. We're gonna go for a little test rip, and then in a few days I'll get those braided brake lines on, and certainly help with the with this. And I might do something different with clamping these. I don't really know yet, but I'll deal with all that. That's minor. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content about this YFZ-450R or any of the other projects that we have going on. This is my shop that we do most of the off-road stuff in. I have a shop in Texas where we do all of our on-road stuff. So here's some of our other off-road machines here. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.